Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
And thank you, Alec Webb. Here's John Davis welcoming you to our MotorWeek podcast.
Are you sure it's John
205?
Davis? Does not sound like John Davis.
I couldn't agree more. I'm still fighting a case of laryngitis, but that's why you won't hear too much of me today. But you will hear, and you already have, writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Hello.
And our road test producer Ben Davis.
Hello.
And our online content coordinator Craig Carlos.
Hey.
Okay, we've got a lightning round, a viewer question and a rant and rave, but we're going to start with some of the cars we've driven lately. And Brian,
yes,
you
sir.
just recently went to Sardinia for the Porsche 911 Speedster. What a gorgeous machine. Tell us about it.
Yeah, there have been many Speedsters prior to this. If you don't know the formula, it's special edition 911s, basically, going all the way back to the original Speedster, which I found an interesting story. That was actually the American importer that came up with that.
Huh.
And he went to the importer in New York, and he went to Ferry Porsche and totally sketched out the car and told him exactly what he wanted. And Porsche was like, that's great, but we would need to sell 5 of those a year to make it worth our effort. And he was like, if I don't sell 5 of them a week, it's not worth my effort. And so that's how the original Speedster came to be, and they've had many throughout the years. This is the first one that was done by the GT house, as they call it there in Porsche, the same people that put together the GT3s and GT2s and all those. So it's loosely based on the GT3. Some slight suspension differences using the touring package from the GT3. But it's got also a different version of the 4-liter engine. The Euro version has a particulate filter. And when they added that, they made some adjustments to the intake to keep horsepower about the same, and it actually increased it up to 509 in the Euro version. But we don't get that. We do get the upgraded intake. So it's up to 502 horsepower now.
A particulate filter on a gasoline engine.
Yes, that's a Euro thing now.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow.
It's big too, right?
It is. It is huge. Yeah, they had to modify the exhaust as well to make it all work.
And they have to be serviced.
What's the? Okay.
Don't they? I mean,
I don't know. I don't live in Europe.
I think the particulate filters certainly on diesels have to be.
That's why the back of the 2020 911 is so big.
Okay. Well, we're learning all kinds of things today. Glad you're along for the ride. Anyway, it's got the 6-speed manual only from the GT3. And it is a mostly manually operated cloth top. It still has a power lock on the header. The windshield's cut down a little bit. You wouldn't really notice it unless someone told you that. A lot more carbon fiber on the body panels to take some weight out. Ultimately, it's just the only way you can get a drop top GT3, and it's amazing to drive. The throttle response is actually quicker from those throttle bodies, so it doesn't feel faster, but coming out of corners, it's a little more responsive. Other than that, it's just an amazing car.
It's really spectacular to see.
It looks beautiful as well.
It really does.
They're limited to 1,948, which I think is a high number. Some of the Speedsters over the years have been limited to just a couple hundred. Mm-hmm. One year there was only 2 made. So that number seems a little high as far as future collectible. But obviously the 1948, which celebrates the 70 years of Porsche. And just to note, this is on the 991.2 chassis outgoing, not the new 2020 chassis.
So collectible $275,000 price to start.
Correct, and that's without AC. Yeah. They wanted to make it strictly a performance version, although you can add AC back as a no-cost option, which is amazing to me because I don't think those words have ever been said at Porsche before. No-cost option. And the Euro version is different as well. You can comes without the PCM.
Really?
No nav, touchscreen, or anything. They can't do that here in the U.S. because of the backup cam requirements. So limited to, like I say, and then buyers can also get a limited edition watch to go on top of it.
So pretty back to basics for them, I guess.
Yeah, they wanted to stress, more like the original, a car made for performance driving. Yes.
Did you talk about the the Heritage Edition?
Heritage Edition is silver and white, which is like the original race cars were. It's got actual numbers on the side. I wasn't so big on that. It looks a little goofy. But the interior is actually better. It comes with like a brown leather interior versus the black. I think the interior looks a lot better. But
I wasn't sure if I was the only one who felt that way because I saw and you have to like really, really be into Porsche racing history to really appreciate it. I think.
And that one I think is $25,000 or so more for the Heritage Edition.
That may be your real collectible though.
You said how much more?
I think it's $25,000 more.
And they're doing it based on. Do they have a set amount?
No,
of those?
whatever
It's based
people.
on whatever, okay.
Yeah, they're all going to be built.
So theoretically, 1,948 people could all buy that.
Yeah, correct. They're going to build them to order. I think dealers started taking orders this week. They won't get delivered till end of the summer, early fall. Well, there you go.
Cool. Just in time for a convertible.
Okay, let's move on to our second vehicle. This one we've all had a chance to drive, the 2019 Acura MDX A-Spec. Not really a performance vehicle, but a nice sporty addition to a very, very good SUV. Start, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much nailed it on the head. It's for somebody who wants to give the appearance of sportiness, but not necessarily have the harsh ride and the super fast engine. I mean, I don't think it even has any horsepower gains, does it? Yeah.
Even Acura calls it a sports appearance package.
Yeah, and that's
their
cool.
credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's something that there's a market for. You actually get some wider 20-inch wheels and I think some like blacked out trim on the outside. And A-Spec, I guess, is kind of a cool name. You could say I have an MDX A-Spec.
And it's some unique color choices. That blue we had.
It's a nice blue. Yeah, good looking package. Inside, Acura refinement. I think they've kind of upped their game a little bit. Certainly more luxurious than what you would get in a Honda, which is obviously what they want. And just overall, I think just something a little bit extra for an MDX that I guess is a little bit older now, or not old, but
yeah, we were talking last podcast about how quickly manufacturers are making changes now. This is actually the fourth time we've tested this chassis MDX. When it came out, then if you remember, it had that real ugly shield grill.
Shield grill.
And then, like within 2 years, they came out with a new grill. Then they came out with the sport hybrid version. We tested that, and now we're just testing this one.
And they're calling this like a mid-cycle, right?
Yeah. Wow. No, this is just an A-Spec version.
Yeah.
This is not even the only changes. Other MDXs, I think, get an updated transmission, a couple minor changes, but yeah, this is mainly just about being the A-Spec version. But
yeah, I think the 9-speed is standard now on the MDX. Mm-hmm. So that makes what? So RDX has an A-Spec, TLX has an A-Spec.
Yeah, they said, 4 or 5 years ago, that they were going to have an A-Spec version of everything, like copying M or AMG or whatever.
Or F-Sport Lexus.
Yeah, some
sounds more exclusive.
Some actually
than
have
F-Sport,
a little
though.
performance advantage, but yeah, like I said earlier, they're straight up with this one. They just call it a sport appearance package.
But let me back up. Is this, because this basic vehicle has been around so long, is it still competitive?
I would say more than competitive. I mean, it's always been roomy, and it handled better than half the competition already. So yeah, I would say so.
It was very pleasant to drive, I thought. Made you feel a little bit less like you were in
It still has the old school 2-screen Acura setup that they had for a hot minute there. Not a huge fan of that.
That part could stand to be overhauled.
As far as, its comfort alone, I think, is worth it. It's depending on what you want from a car. I mean, it's one of the more comfortable SUVs. I mean, forget segment. It's just a really comfortable SUV.
Benny, you had more chance driving it under pressure than anyone else.
Under pressure.
Under pressure.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said here, and I admire the. I mean, it's easy just to throw around a name and a package and not really have a whole lot of stand behind it. But I think it's cool that they have exclusive colors and exclusive wheels and stuff. It just lets an Acura buyer be a little more exclusive than your average Acura buyer, and there's plenty of room for that.
I got in it, and I have to say I did not, except for the twin infotainment screens, it did not feel dated in any way, which I thought was pretty amazing in this day and age. We're going to move along and do something a little different for our third slot on this show. We're going to talk about our long-term vehicles that we get in here to drive anywhere from 3 months to a year, and do kind of a quick rundown on them. Greg, why don't you kind of take us through our long-termers, and everybody just sort of chime in and talk about them.
Sure. I'll probably start with two that just left us. One of them is the Crosstrek, which we actually had a 2017 for a year, and then we just had the 2018 for a year, so we actually got to see I have a very good comparison between the two generations, and I'm probably not the only one who says it's quite a leap between the two, especially with interior refinement. I don't know how everybody else felt about that.
Yeah, interior refinement definitely was better. Ride quality was better. Everything, it even threw in a little extra power, but they could have thrown in a little more extra power.
Yeah, that's one thing I think everybody agrees with here is that it's a little underpowered when it's paired with that CVT.
Part of it is it's such a sporty little vehicle, you're just expecting a little bit more.
Yeah, I think, it might even be a mental thing where you're expecting more. But we got a lot of use out of it. One thing that I noticed actually just recently before it left was how wide the hatch opened, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but when you're loading something and you're as tall as I am, if most hatches are in your face, this one was like way out of the way, so it was nice throwing some stuff in the back. Another car that just left, truck I should say, Ram 1500, which we got a lot of use out of that. A lot of people.
Our pick of the litter too.
Yeah, I wish that would have.
left. That's the second Ram we've had where we were just like really upset when it left because it's one of the best, if not the best, driving pickup trucks. Fuel economy was not great. It left at 15.9, but it also has the Hemi V8.
Yeah, that's the first long-term Hemi that I think we've had. We usually have the V6s when we get the Ram.
Complain about power too when we have the 6s. This had plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not so fuel efficient, but super nice inside. We got to experience that big tablet-style screen, which was new for them this year. Again, it was expensive.
65.
65. So it's not a cheap truck, and I think we kind of have to keep that in mind when we're talking about this. But
that truck is so comfortable, though. Like getting on the highway and just setting the cruise control in that thing, it's like a luxury car.
So much different than we have a Ranger in right now, and just the difference between a half-ton and a mid-size pickup truck in terms of ride quality, it's pretty crazy. We also have, 4 cars in right now. Nero PHEV. That is right now, I guess. What do you think? And we have driven the Nero EV, and we obviously had the standard Nero. I mean, where does the PHEV stand in your eyes compared to those other two? In terms of value?
Feels like a different car than the standard.
Compared to the regular hybrid, yeah, it's much more refined inside. It's not the most fun car to drive, but super roomy and practical and almost comforting to drive.
We're averaging close to 60 mpg. I think we're actually in the process of another update, but the last update was 57.5, which is with the plug-in, and that's 20-some miles of range, I believe. Yeah. And we keep it plugged in pretty regularly. A lot of short trips.
Some people just plug it like it's
we try. Well, it's easy. Well,
we have a plug-in?
The problem is we get so many plug-ins these days. We start fighting for plug space.
Got a couple of chargers, so... Yeah.
Mazda 6 will be with us for probably another month, and that's just one that everybody likes to drive because it's a Mazda.
What a nice sedan.
Yeah. That's the last comment I had on it was that we expect Mazdas to drive well, that it has a good powertrain, it handles well, but what they focused on recently is just the upscale premium interior, which is ours is a signature edition, which is new for Mazda 6.
Yep, they're running it through the trim or through each model every year. It gets a new signature, but yeah, that's one I hadn't. Sometimes you're in and out of cars or whatever. I hadn't driven that in like months, but I've been in it a couple times this last week, and you forget how nice it really does drive.
Yeah, and it just again we've had it for almost a year, and I don't think there's any difference in how it drove day one as it does now. Insight, the Honda Insight, another hybrid for us, 41.2 miles per gallon. That's another one that gets quite a bit of use. I will say, as solid as the car is, it is a little bit annoying to drive on the highway. I don't know how much time anybody's had in it.
I took it on a 600-mile one-way trip, and I was expecting it to be a little noisy because of the CVT, but actually the car was so rock solid, I didn't notice it after about the first half an hour or so.
I could see
and very more useful than I expected because it's a basic Civic size.
Yeah, it sits really low too.
Yeah.
It's sporty for sure.
It's a huge trunk, and it is very nice cruiser.
Yeah, and finally the Volkswagen Jetta R line, another one of our Volkswagens that we get in for around 3 months at a time. This is the R line really is another one of those appearance packages we were talking about. Just makes it look a little sporty, but
such a nice car.
yeah, well, I really enjoy driving it. 32.2 miles per gallon right now.
We have 3 sedans right there that if you really have not driven a sedan in a long time, the Mazda 6, the Insight, and the Jetta R-Line, they just show you why sedans should be in more favor than they are today.
Yeah, you know what? I golf pretty often, and I forget.
What's your handicap? I don't even know
How
what
much
that
time
means.
you got?
I just think you're supposed to ask that.
Too much to count. But yeah, we get so many SUVs, and I'm so used to trying to, like, even the small ones and even some of the mid-sized ones, it's not super easy to put your clubs in there. You end up having to put a back seat down. But with most sedans, you just throw it in the trunk and off I go. So, that's my my vote for a sedan right there.
Hear, hear. Thanks. Let's move on to our lightning round. I'm going to turn to Ben to kind of read the question that we supposedly have about 30 seconds to comment on, but we never watched
Give
the
or
clock.
take, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, after years of speculation, a mid-engine Corvette is going into production. In fact, we will be at the official unveiling this summer. That's you, JD, right?
Yeah.
Did you ever think it would actually happen?
No.
Now, that is kind of an up-in-the-air question. Well, now that it is, how do you feel about it, despite not knowing performance numbers or pricing? I mean, front engine, and now we're mid-engine. I mean, Corvette. Who wants to take it?
I thought you were taking it.
Yeah, I thought that was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
Let's go.
I'll take it then. How do I feel about it?
Start.
I don't know how I feel about it. I love front-engine Corvettes, and they've taken them so far. I mean, they haven't really – the same basic recipe is still there. You still have the transverse leaf spring right over the back, or do you? I mean, maybe you don't.
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. But I'm a little confused. My understanding is they're going to keep – are they or are they not going to keep making the C7?
To me, that was the whole point of when this last gen came out, calling it the Corvette Stingray.
Right.
That way it would be a separate model than the mid-engine Corvette, which was, I think at the time, supposed to be out like 4 years ago. But it is finally coming out now. So I think there will be 2 lines, yes.
It seems to me that they've been trying to make the Corvette sort of like a multi-vehicle thing for almost as long as we've been on the air, and they're finally doing it. But this is going to be a much more expensive car.
Yeah, I will certainly drive it and hopefully enjoy doing so, but I just don't know. It just seems to me like they're just chasing after people they don't need to be chasing after. It just seems like the Corvette's so iconic, and there's so many people who just want the front engine standard Corvette, and I don't know.
But sales are way down, as they are on all sports cars, and so I think they're looking at how can we fill up this factory and expand the line and make it more prestigious at the same time.
Is it my generation's fault again? All we want are mid-engine cars.
I think it's everybody just wants an SUV.
Bloggers.
Guys.
Regardless of how long they keep the front engine car in production, I'm actually excited about seeing the new car because it has been something they've been talking about for. I mean, I can't remember when they weren't talking about it. So
It wasn't the original concept Corvette? Wasn't that a mid-engine, the original concept? Or am I thinking of some other car?
Wasn't there like a Serve 3 in the 80s that was a mid-engine?
they've done some mid-engine concepts along the way.
They had one in the Transformers movie that was like a prototype, early prototype, like 5 years ago.
They're probably showing how much we don't know about Corvette
I
history.
feel like when they unveil it in the summer, they're just going to be like, here it is, shut up. Stop asking about it.
Round taillights? No, sorry. They're never coming back.
Well, it's going to be a terrific performer for the money. So the question is just how much and how exclusive. Okay. Viewer question. Brian Robinson, would you like to take this?
Thank you for giving me this long question to read. Right up my alley. How to, it says.
Oh, no. Andre, I'm sorry.
There's something in lost in translation here. How to the car companies choose the car names.
I think, he was actually, I'm sure it wasn't serious, but he also asked, like, is there, like, just an algorithm that they use?
Well, interesting story. This has not necessarily car names, but I was at a event. This was, like, not pre-internet, but before Google was, as ubiquitous as it is now. This certain car company had a program where you could type in like 3 attributes of something you wanted to express, and it would then make up a word. That's how they come up with like.
So they got Venza.
Yeah, Venza, like Triton engines and EcoBoost. I mean, those are all made up words. So they typed in these 3. It was specifically they wanted to name an engine. And they typed in these 3 attributes, and the word it spit out was juice whip.
I'd like to type in your attributes and then like a nickname generator.
I'm sure you can do it on Google now. So, but anyway,
say old man.
So I'm not sure what that helps you, Andre, but I think they just make stuff up, right?
Well, it depends on what they're after. A lot of them still like to go back for nostalgic names, even if it's not their nostalgic name. And, something that's no longer in use, and they'll try and borrow it. We've seen that a lot. But what gets me is when they, the alphanumeric stuff. It just doesn't make any sense in most cases.
It did.
How are
and
people?
Then it's just gotten so convoluted.
And especially when they constantly change it.
Yeah.
Like when brands, BMW, that the
Cadillac,
numbers used to
Infiniti.
be associated with the engine, and then now they're just
What about Infiniti?
no relevance at all.
Yeah.
Infiniti just really shook everything up.
Yeah,
It's
Didn't
like
it?
every
from
time they
G
get
to
a new
Q.
head guy at one of these car companies, they change the names, and that's doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. So I guess the answer is that the people who use alphanumeric are trying to make some sense of it, and the reason they do it is because of the global reach of their cars. And then those who still use names, like even Porsche with the new Taycan and Cayenne and everything, I feel like they have like a general theme that they're going for, and then they just kind of
Right,
try
they
to stick
find
with it.
extinct Arab tribe from Africa.
They just go to
had that name.
dictionary.com or
There's
thesaurus.
some strange ones out there. For sure.
I think we beat that one to death. Okay, any rant and raves this week?
I ran last time.
As
Somebody else.
silence settles over the
Nothing,
table.
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh my goodness!
I
Really?
think I do.
I'm wondering how much more influence video games are going to have over everyday driving, because every time I get on a crowded highway, there's at least one or two, and they're usually pretty young drivers, doing a slot car thing between traffic.
I had one today.
Oh my God. You're just thinking, do they just think they're immortal? And the answer is probably yes, because it's very discouraging to you can't drive just looking ahead and behind you. It's a 360-degree situation now. And I wish there was some solution to it, but I don't seem to have one.
Just be thankful there's all kinds of
Sensors.
interactive software these days.
So yeah, it's I demonstrated the blind spot view
Blind
in the
spot.
Telluride. So it actually has like a video monitor.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people who get upset because they think it'll make everybody lazy and that nobody will ever use the mirrors and blah, 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 blah. And I guess I understand the argument, but it's not like Kia is trying to replace side view mirrors. It's just an extra aid to
They're
help
giving you more information.
Right.
That's what- yeah.
The right-hand view monitor that's in a most upper-level Honda.
Which loving rid of, actually,
Love it.
I think.
Oh no, that's
Are they
such.
really?
Do you like it?
So great.
All right, well, here's the question.
I don't like it, but I found it useful.
Yeah, well,
My first impression
So
was
great.
negative, but then you
yeah, I understand that it is useful, but I like what Kia did, and they put it in the gauge cluster.
Right,
To
so
me,
you could-
that's just how I.
you don't have to
see
look
things.
away.
Yeah,
So much
exactly.
greater, but still great.
It is smaller though compared to the Honda one.
Yeah, and it's
Or-
also both sides of the car. It's not
Yeah.
just your passenger side.
So maybe it's just an idea that's evolving.
Yeah, I mean, a couple years down the road, it might be standard. And,
We won't even be driving anyway, so it doesn't matter.
yeah, according to some.
A robot will be using it. All right, thanks. We're going to bring this session to a close, thankfully. Our audio engineer, Jim Bigwood, has made us all sound as good as possible, although Jim is not responsible for any errors in what we say. Our podcast producer, Greg Carlos, he is responsible. And our podcast creator, Bob Mixter, who basically had no idea what he was thinking of when he came up with this idea. Thanks very much. Who would like to take this out? Brian?
Oh, I'll take it home.
You do
Be sure and tune in and watch us on all the usual spots, as well as check us out on the internets. And thanks for watching and tuning in.
And see you soon.
You've been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.